first real six string. Bought it at the 5-hand dime. Played it till my fingers bled. It was the summer of '69. Hi and welcome to Musical Mystery Tour. My name's Al, and as the title of this video suggests, this one is about playing your guitar so your fingers don't bleed, i.e. if you're just starting to learn how to play guitar or you're thinking about learning to play guitar, how to stop your fingers hurting. Now, at the start of the video we heard of me murdering Brian Adams' Summer of '69, and the lyrics in that song go, I got my first real six string, bought it at the 5 dime, played it till my fingers bled. It was the summer of '69. Now what I can tell you is that if you bought a guitar at a 5 dime in 1969, it probably would be the sort of instrument that would make your fingers bleed. But these days, fortunately, if we buy cheap guitars, they're very well made. A lot better than they used to be made in 1969. So if you get a guitar now, the chances are that if it's making your fingers bleed, it will probably be because you're not fingering the strings properly, and nothing to do with it having an action like a cheese grater with the strings way far off the fingerboard. And to sort of prove that point, what I'm playing is a cheap guitar. This is a Baldwin Gibson Les Paul. These things were sold at cheap shops about 10 years ago. They were kind of the equivalent of buying a guitar from a 5 dime. And it's actually a very nice guitar if you set the things up. I'm going to do a video in the not too distant future considering these things, because you can find them on Reverb and eBay for not much money and stuff like that. So look out for that one. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. And your fingers bleeding when you learn to play. Now, as I say, a lot of what it used to be years ago when old people like me were learning how to play the guitar years ago, was that the guitars would be quite badly made and the strings would be a long way off the fretboard, and so you'd have to push down really hard on the strings to get them to sound alright, and because you were not used to playing guitar, your fingers would be going in the wrong place, so it wouldn't sound right, and you'd think, oh, I'm not pressing down hard enough, so you'd press down even harder and harder and it still wouldn't sound right, and what have you, and you'd end up with ruts in your fingers and they'd be bleeding and stuff like that. As I say, guitars these days are manufactured using CNC machines, which is computer numerical control, so they're very, very much better made than the old ones that people like me learned on years ago. So the actions on them, i.e. how far the strings are off the fingerboard, are usually pretty good, and everything else is usually pretty good on them. So we're left with technique making your fingers hurt when you're learning. Now, I'm not going to lie and say that if you're starting out on guitar, it's not going to make your fingers and your wrist ache a little bit, because it will do. Your fingers have got to toughen up a bit, the ends of your fingers have got to toughen up a bit, and when you're playing an instrument, you're moving your hand in ways that you're not normally used to moving, so, you know, until your muscles strengthen up, that's probably going to ache a little bit. But what you don't need is to sort of have the ends of your fingers hurting. There's this ridiculous myth amongst guitar players that having your fingers bleed when you're learning to play guitar is some sort of ridiculous rite of passage that you have to go through, and that's just not true at all. Yes, your fingers have to toughen up a little bit, but they don't have to bleed. Now, and the main reason why people do get sore fingers when they're learning how to play guitar is because they're not positioning their fingers correctly. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, if I told you to sort of push the button on a lift, if we were in an elevator and I said push the button, you would push it with your finger like that. You might go like that though and push it with the fingerprint part of your finger. If you jabbed it like that, like you were jabbing someone in the chest, that is how you finger the strings on a guitar, with the end of your finger. If, however, you use your fingerprint part, the problem becomes this, and I will show you. If I do it like that incorrectly, what I end up with is my finger being very flat and it starts crashing into the other strings and stopping them sounding. Whereas if I go like that, end on with my finger, it doesn't crash into the other strings. And consequently, the other strings can ring out cleanly. So it's mostly that that causes the problem when people are learning guitar. They are not pressing the string like that, they're pressing the string like that, and it's interfering with other strings. The other thing that people do is they don't have enough sort of pressure pushing against the strings. Now, you don't need to press down very hard, but what you do need is you need to be able to press against something. So what you need to do is you need to have your thumb braced against your fingers pressing by having it there. Now, you don't always have to play like that. You'll see a lot of people playing and their thumb will be coming over the top to play chords, but initially when you're starting out, what you want to try and do is brace against your thumb, and what that does is, because your thumb's further around here, your fingers are more likely to come down on the strings rather than if you're like this and they'll end up being flat and what have you. So thumb in the back. Initially when you start, you can start getting sloppy and doing G chords with your thumb over the top when you're a bit more used to it, but initially when you're starting, thumb more or less in the centre of the back, fingers coming perpendicular down onto the strings, and that will solve most of your problems. Now, one of the interesting things that you can do, however, is you can kind of make use of the mistake that people make where their fingers go on the strings like this and they're down flat like that. And that happens in that song that I was playing, because what it has is it has a D chord. If I can just make a D chord, it's sort of difficult to see. So I've got D chord there, 3 strings in a triangle shape, one of the easiest chords that you can play. But in that song, what I was doing is I was tilting this finger down on and off to get that string as well as that string, and that's part of the rhythm of that song, where I'm getting the of it. So the mistake that people make when they're starting out, where they're accidentally hitting another string, is something that you kind of embrace later on and start doing that sort of thing. But initially, when you're learning how to play guitar, get your fingers sort of perpendicular to the fretboard and press down with that part right on the end of your finger there, not that fleshy part. If you go with that fleshy part, you'll be too flat on the fingerboard and it'll end up crashing into the other strings and it won't sound good. But if you'll notice, I'll try and do it there so you can see it, you'll notice that later on when you're playing and you're getting a little bit more advanced, if you watch this finger here like that, you'll see that what I'm doing is I'm tilting it like that to get another string, i.e. So what you're initially doing wrong eventually becomes something that you embrace, and there's a similar thing going on with your thumb. Initially, start out with your thumb in the back so you've got something to brace pressing your fingers down, but when you start getting a little bit more advanced and your fingers have toughened up and stuff like that, you do end up coming over the top and getting strings like that and what have you, but by then you kind of know what you're doing and you know what you can get away with. So that was just a quick little tip on, if you're learning how to play guitar, what you might be doing wrong to not get the right sound. It is usually that your fingers are not perpendicular to the fretboard and they're crashing into the other strings and stopping them sounding alright. If they're like that, you'll be clear of all the other strings that you shouldn't be hitting and everything will ring out nicely as opposed to sounding like that. There you go. Anyway, that was just a quick one for people learning how to play guitar. I've been Al, this has been Musical Mystery Tour. If you like the content of my video, it's a new channel so there's not much content on it at the moment, but if you like this sort of thing, hit that subscribe button because that'll help me get the channel started, and look out for another video soon. But for now, that's it from Musical Mystery Tour. I hope you all have a happy new year, and we'll see you in the new year with more videos. But for now, bye, happy new year.